Good evening, dear colleagues. Welcome to the next series of the Cloud Monitoring Tuesday from Dubai. Welcome to the session about log analytics, solution tables plus KUSTO language overview. We will talk a lot today about these two main things in terms of monitoring, in terms of Azure monitoring, how to use it. And my name is Igor Shestitka and I am Microsoft MVP. You can see some additional details about me here on this slide. If you would like to contact me, please contact with this email, or you can also contact me with LinkedIn. Here's the direct link to my LinkedIn profile, my work experience, etc. And let's back to our series again. So Cloud Monitoring Tuesday, it's a journeys with a lot of interesting topics. We already mostly on the middle of this journey. Before we talk about the strategy and tools of Azure monitoring, we talk about the Azure service health and resource health. We talk about the Azure resource activity monitoring and how to work with it. And today we will try to understand, and I will try to explain you how this monitoring stores the data, how you can connect to this data, and how you can take this data to life to help you to understand the root cause analysis, etc., etc. It's all about the KUSTO language. We will do the overview of it, and plus after that, next sessions, it's more about KUSTO request for the different scenarios. It's about the PowerShell automation. It's about the full package, let's say, how we can use these scenarios together. And of course, there is the additional QR code on the slides. Mostly on each slide, you can look on this QR code and find additional information about these topics on the Microsoft documentation, etc. And today again we will talk more detailed about the Azure Log Analytics. What is Azure Log Analytics and what is the difference between Log Analytics and Log Analytics Workspace, how Azure Monitor collects the data, stores the data, and where this data stored, and what is the difference between Azure Monitor solution inside visualizations, how it exactly works, and what we have to use and how we can use these different stuffs. Of course, I will try to do a lot of demos for these things, and after that we'll talk about the KUSTO languages, KUSTO language review. We will talk more detailed about the KUSTO demo code review. I will try to explain you quite deep dive, quite, let's say, intensive code that we will need to work with it, and we will discuss about this kind of codes after that later. And plus KUSTO tips and tricks to better understand how you can learn this language, how you can work with this language, etc. It's also the part of our today's presentation. And again, QR code, welcome to click on it to have additional information. Plus on the description of this video you will find the link on the previous sessions that I mentioned before. And again, when we are talking about the monitoring solutions, etc., we always talk about the different levels: Azure Service Health, Azure Subscriptions Resource Health, Cloud Solution Health, etc., etc. But we must understand that, like, all data that we collect in Azure are routed somewhere to something named Azure Log Analytics Workspace, where we have different tables, where we have different ways to collect this data, modify this data, and store this data with some remediations, etc., etc. It's all about log analytics. So like whatever we are talking about, the like service health, etc. Do you remember that on the previous session we talked about how to route the activity logs to the log analytics? Yes, so like we will have these activities, etc., here. In reality, most of these run books will connect not like logically here, but will connect to the log analytics to do some operations. When we are talking about the, for example, SAP deployment, etc., all data collected by the virtual machine inside, collected by the Azure Monitor for sub-solution, etc., anyway will be stored to the log analytics workspace, where we can take some information, where we can use the alerts, etc., by KUSTO language again to take the required data, analyze it, and send whatever we need and how we need to send it. We will also review on the next sessions. So this session, about the log analytics, Azure Log Analytics Workspace, and KUSTO language like a tool that allow us to understand and go with it. Okay, and what is exactly the Azure Log Analytics and Azure Log Analytics Workspace? What is the difference, etc.? When we are talking about the Azure Log Analytics Workspace, we are talking about some storage that provide for your solution the way to store the data in appropriate way and be able to get this data by the log query to the different sources. So let's imagine that log analytics in reality, it's not a free for use, but quite good, quite fast, and quite effective variant of the SQL server, let's say, or any database server that stores different information about the Azure, like activity logs, like virtual machine logs, etc., in the tables, right? And allow you to combine this data, analyze this data, etc. Same time, what is the log analytics itself? Log analytics, it's one of the tools that allow you to use the KUSTO query to execute again the different log analytics workspaces. Yes, you can use different log analytics workspaces. It's defined by the strategy, defined by the cloud adoption framework in Azure, for example, how many log analytics you need, how the data will be stored, etc., etc. All about this strategy we will review and talk on the next sessions. But anyway, so let's imagine that we have log analytics for some sandbox environments, for some non-prod environments and prod environments. Why it's this differentiation? Because we need some different, for example, access to these log analytics workspaces. We need different retention days, etc., etc. Who cares about the sandbox retention and keep it like more than 30 days, for example, for sandbox? Yeah, so like we are not care about the, for example, too much security for the sandbox, because again, a lot of dev teams, a lot of testers, etc., could use the sandbox, etc. Most of sandbox tasks, log analytics workspace tasks, it's like just be sure that it's work exactly like required to provide the performance counters, etc., etc. Again, so this is the one log analytics. Another log analytic, for example, for production, where we are storing the real sensitive data because it's production system. Even the logs could provide some sensitive information, etc., and we provide the access to this log analytics only for the selected peoples. We are storing it up to 2 years as it's allowed for the log analytics, etc., etc. So all these scenarios could be applied for the different log analytics workspace. And again, log analytics, it's just only one of the tools that could be used, and we will talk about insights, we will talk about dashboard, workbooks, log alerts we already talked to, and we will go deeper after, and different services by log queries. Log queries, it's exactly our KUSTO language, etc. To understand how it's happening, why these data sources 1 to 3 send the data to the different tables, let's see the standard diagrams. Again, it's not rocket science, it's exactly the way how Microsoft works, etc. This is understanding the data sources for Azure Log Analytics and for Azure Monitor itself. If you see, there is a standard way that could provide the data, like we have the levels about of monitoring. We have the level of the Azure tenant, you know it, it's our for example, tenant health, Azure Health. This is the option for the Azure Active Directory events, etc., etc. We have subscription. We already discussed this on the subscription level, like activity logs, etc. Service health. We have Azure resource. It's like what or how Azure can see these objects. We have operation system guest solution, and how inside, what happened inside the operation system or inside the service, and what happened inside the selected application, right? So this is the part of the sources, plus it could be also the custom sources that you can use, for example, to work with some additional information, some custom tables that you can create too. So it's also the option here. The data could be sent to 2 different storages, or it could be log analytics storage or separate storage that's named metrics, that provides some metrics information for the some information, right? And after that, different storages that allow us to look what's going on, like insights that I will discuss after, etc., etc. Analyze with log analytics or metric analytics tools, etc. After that, let's see how it in reality works. For example, if we are talking about Azure subscription, we can route activity logs that we discussed before, like event hub to the storage, to the log analytics, and so activity logs and logs as is to be like a log analytics. For another scenario, like a service health, it's also the services that put this data, and you can see that logs could be routed here and used by the log analytics. It's one of the scenario when we are talking about the Azure subscription level. When we are talking about the Azure resource level, we have resource logs and resource metrics. What mean by metrics on the resource Azure resource? When we are talking about the virtual machine, this virtual machine has its own metrics in terms of in terms of how Azure sees the performance of these machines. What is the metrics depends on this virtual machine, happens on the physical hardware, and it's exactly Azure resource metrics. Same time, what's happening on the resource, like a Azure resource itself, also collected and sent to the log analytics or different options like event hub or some storage, etc., etc. So it depends how you connect it. For example, what resource we are talking about may be backup. When we configure the backup, configure the diagnostic of the backup, we select what diagnostic and where we will store, right? And more important for us, for the next steps, to understand how our infrastructure works, how our solution works, especially if this solution is IaaS. We are talking about operation system. It's next level. For example, PaaS, database, backup, etc., we just have the metrics and resource logs configured by Azure. To work with operation system on the guest level, Microsoft with Azure provides additional options like Azure Monitor Agent. This Azure Monitor Agent, this is application that must be installed inside each machine. It's happened when you create the machine and try to turn on, for example, VM insights. When you turn on the VM insights, system trying to install the Azure Monitor Agent or Log Analytic Agent, the second one, inside the machine to collect the data. So this is the agent that's working to get the data, select the data, and send it to the different sources. As you can see, for example, when you turn Azure Monitor Agent will send the data to the metrics. Also, not only resources, but Azure Agent, so it will be extended part of the metrics, not only from the Azure perspective, but also from the operation system perspective, and you will see more information in one piece, right? So you can see the metrics, or you can send the data to the logs. No to the storage, no to the event hub. When we are talking about, for example, log analytics agent, you can see that data will be sent just to the logs. But to compensate this issue, additional information like a diagnostic extension that's also legacy for now, send the data to the metrics, can send the data to the storage and event hub. For the most of like operations, it could be clear for you. I mean, it's like a transparent, because you just turn on what you need. Like I want to install the VM inside. I want to install this VM inside with selected machine, and system will provide you again needed operations and needed services. If you choose, for example, a log analytics agent will be installed, not only log analytics but diagnostic extension also, depends on what you choose on the diagnostic settings, right? And plus dependency agent selects the additional dependency data between the machines and provides this information for the log analytics for you, for example, to understand how machines connected to each other. Now you can see which process connect to which system, etc. So it's how it works. And if it's clear, because I am talking a lot, do you have any questions, colleagues? Nope. Yeah. Oh, yes. Okay. Depends on how to look like. When you choose the Azure Monitor agent, sorry, you have to create data collection rules, and these data collection rules will define how the data will go and from where the data will be taken, because it's data collection rule. When you install Log Analytics agent, frankly saying, you don't know that you install like a Log Analytics agent and connected you before. You just say that I want to turn on VM Insight for the machine, and this data will be collected. When we are talking about the diagnostic part could be turned on again different scenarios, and you can do this like from the policy or from the portal and select where you will send the data. Definitely you will send the data to the metrics, but also you can define the storage account, etc., how to collect. Dependency agent itself, install it both with the Azure Monitor agent or with the Log Analytics agent, whatever, to have this dependence. So this is how it works, right? And most important to understand that there is a lot of different scenarios how Azure does visualization, let's say collecting visualization and analytics, because for now there is two main big concepts how you can collect the data and analyze the data. One concept, name it solution. Solution, it's like a group of the services, group of the tables, a group of the commands for the, for example, Azure Monitor agent or Azure Log Analytics agent, etc., etc., how to collect the data and send the data to each other and to what tables. When you install, for example, when we are talking about the VM Insights, it's a solution that extend monitor and provide some data, etc., etc., provide some instruction, create additional tables, etc. So like, just imagine that Azure Monitor itself, it's a huge engine. Azure Log Analytics Workspace, it's your database, like a database, empty database with no tables or just default tables. And right now you need to select the virtual machine data. By default, we are selecting only the data from the Azure and send this data to the metrics or send this data to the Log Analytics, to the basic like options like heartbeat, etc. Is machine alive or not? For when we install VM Insights, it means that we configure the Log Analytics to have these tables. We provide the like description to the Azure Monitor and say, look, next time when some machines need to be turned on VM Insights, you need to look on the associated with this virtual machine Log Analytics Workspace, create required tables, configure the agent like this, and send this data, this set of to these tables. This is how it works, right? Plus, some solutions work not only with the Azure Monitor, but required also automation account in additional to Log Analytics Workspace to collect some special data, like, for example, updates, like status of the machines, etc. When we are talking about the configuration drift monitoring, etc., we are using the special solution for the configuration management, and this configuration management based on the two options. One, it's automation account, where we configuring assessment of the machines, and configuration change and control. So like the agent will run time by time some operations initiated by automation account, collect some data about the machines, about the services inside machine, about the files, etc., send it to the log analytics or to the blob, etc. But anyway, on the log analytics it will be additional table with the records, what's changed or when it was checked, etc. Important to understand that Microsoft stopped to develop the new solutions and working only with existing solutions. Yeah, VM Insights is working right now, no issue, etc. But maybe in the next iteration of the Azure Monitor global update, a solution will be changed with some insights, right? What is insights? Insights, it's less about configuration, but it's more about the visualization and how to provide data for you. Microsoft is working more and more in Insight, but it's important to understand, for example, that Insight, it's not VM Insight, it's solution. Insight itself or Azure Monitor Insight, so like it's like the workbooks, right? So to provide you visualization, to allow you to see some important data, or how to take this data from the tables, how to aggregate the data, etc. Plus, some insights may be required additional services, like, for example, when we are talking about the SQL insights, we have a standard tables where the SQL data should be stored. But to store this data, to collect this data, we need to install additional SQL monitor machine, SQL servers that will connect to different SQL machines, take the data about the SQL itself and put it to the Insight to work with this. So this is the main difference for this, and to better understand and again to better, let's say view of this scenario, let's go to the portal and see how it exactly works. Sorry. Okay, so let's see one by one for the Azure Monitor, Log Analytics, Workspaces, Log Analytics itself. What is the solution in Insights? Let's see for the table. Let's see for the data collection rules and what is the transformation. And let's configure some solution and insights, right? And again, so use this QR code to get additional information about. Okay, what is the Azure Monitor? We already talked about this, but anyway, you can see here the main options, and here our insights, here is our logs, here is our change analytics, etc., diagnostic settings, data collection rules, data collection endpoints, etc. All about this. And for insights, on the first table you see the additional options and fast connect to the different workbooks or logs, etc. We need to work with the log analytics. When we are talking about the log analytics, you have to understand that these logs, it's already tool to work with the log analytics. When we are talking about the insights and click here for the log analytics workspace, we are working with the insights. These insights, what I try to explain you, provide us information about what's going on, how it works, which one is enabled, etc. For networking, for example, we can see the network interfaces, we can see how many bytes it will send, how many package receive it, etc., etc. We can see the health alerts, whatever. What is the public IPs? Is it like a type of the IPs, etc. Plus, we can see the all resources. We can see the mapping. We can see traffic, which NSG works, etc. We can see the connectivity between the virtual machines and apps. No data. We can see the connectivity inside the virtual machines, etc. to work with it. This is insights again. So for any, for example, for the SQL server, when we are talking about the SQL server, we can see what's going on with the SQL server for the last 30 days or whatever. But anyway, we have the monitor profile, we have the monitor machine, but we have no connected solutions. Same, for example, for the key vaults. So it's representing for us the information about the key vaults, how many requests it's come, typical latency, etc. When we are talking about the log analytics workspace, we are looking for the licensing, we are looking for the retention days. We can see performance table with the megabyte size. We can see events, we can see heartbeat, etc. most biggest options, etc. So like we can see the health of our log analytics itself, right? We can see connected agents and what's going on with this agent, Azure Monitor agent. Is it okay? We switch back to the machine, etc. It's insights, right? When we are talking about the workspace itself, log analytics workspace, right? This is exactly our storages that we create, configure, and use to store some data. Each workspace, we already see it, right? But we came from the inside part, but this is direct connection. For example, we can see here what exactly the storages, what we have here, how it works, what it stores. And here, for example, we can see our tables that's working for different options, and also we can create custom log based on the data collection rules, or we can create the custom log based on our monitor agent, based on the text file, and after that we can say that please take this file from somewhere, etc. To configure this connectivity, we can do this, you see, log analytics, add the custom logs the same way. Table will be created and configured. If we need to collect some another custom data, we can use the custom data from the data collection rules. Log analytics itself have different sources. We can see that is it connected or not connected to the log analytics, from where data comes. We can connect different systems, center, etc. By the way, all these machines connected to the workspace, but it does not provide, because as I mentioned before, the system right now is going to the changes, And virtual machines right now, if you look on any virtual machines, connected not by the log analytics agent, but by Azure Monitor agent with the rules, right? And here we also can see the logs. This will be the logs for the solution. For example, inside metrics. When we execute inside metrics, we can see what's stored inside the table inside metrics, what is the data, etc. And if we go, for example, to another table, for example, heartbeat. Where is our heartbeat? This is table for heartbeat, and we can see the heartbeat of each machine. From where is it? The name of the machine, is it work, not work, etc. By the way, why is just only one machine? Maybe other. I thought I turned all machine on. Just a second, just to be sure. Running. So like we have to see all machines. But anyway, this is the logs, right? When we are talking about the solutions that's configured inside, solutions, you can see insights here. It's what we have for insights, networking, backup, for example, and we will see all backups that's reporting to the selected log analytics, and after that provide us some usage, some jobs that happened, etc. No backups, right? But when we are talking about the solution, we install this solution for the log analytics. And if we go here, you can see that change tracking, it's a solution. Network monitoring, it's a solution. Update solution, and VM Insight, it's also a solution. If we need to add additional solutions here, we can go to the marketplace. System will automatically send us to the required options. We can choose, for example, only Microsoft solution, and this solution could be configured and provided for the different things. For example, Azure SQL Analytics Preview, but Microsoft has right now SQL Insight. It's what I mentioned before, that please do not use the solutions if you have the same insight. For example, we don't have security and audit insight. We can install it for it. We don't have Azure Security, and we have it. Update compliance. Updates, we have the updates. Let's install alert monitoring, for example. When we are talking about the alert monitoring, we say that, okay, let's install it for this log analytics, and it will add us additional functionality inside the tables to work with logs. So you see this summary, what's happened with the logs, how many alerts, how many resources, etc. we have, etc. This is exactly alerts. You can now view and all alerts from the System Center Operation Manager. Okay, so it's for Operation Manager. We will not be able to see it because we have no System Center Operation Manager machine that sends the data. So like Log Analytics workspace. But anyway, we installed our workspace. We have this solution for now. Alert management. We're able to do some options. We're able to view some additional tables. It will be added here. Azure Resources, Update Management. Now you see it's like the groups. Network Monitor, Log Management, Change Tracking. Somewhere we added and created the solution, but not now. Let's work on it. Is it clear in terms of tables, solutions, insights, etc.? And hope yes. So like what we have to do next, let's see how it works in terms of virtual machines. We have 3 virtual machines that's already connected. Let's create the small virtual machine. I want to create the Azure virtual machine. I want to create a standard resource group. Let's name it no, it will be the Windows data center, so it will be size like this. We will put the question from where I can take this solution. You can even create your own solution if you know the API and how to do this. Basically, it works for Azure Marketplace, right? You can take this from Azure Marketplace, different solutions that will define how it will work, right? If you want to have your own table, you can create it, just create. And there is a special API that's for ingress traffic to send the data to the table. To read the data to the table, it's more easiest way than send the data. But anyway, Azure has the API. If you want to use the Azure Log Analytics to store your own data, no problem. Same time, you can use not only the Azure Log Analytics to store the data, it's just like to store some important monitoring data maybe, but also you can store this data to the Azure Data Explorer if you need. We will talk about, but anyway, so like it's a standard option. Let's build with the standard HDD. Even with standard HDD, Azure really fast. Virtual network, public API. Let's keep it. Delete it. I don't need load balancer. Let's shut down the machine. No, okay. Standard create. Just want to demonstrate you how the data will be connected and what is the difference, etc. Okay, while the machine working and creating, let's back to the presentation, and we will came back with the data collection rules and transformation after. But to get the data from the tables, we need some tool, and this tool, name it KUSTO query language or KQL, that's work with Azure Log Analytics, not only with the Azure Log Analytics, but anyway with this like a main one. You can create again, the most important part to understand is KUSTO query language is read-only requests. So you don't need, you can't create the command that will change the data inside the log analytics by KUSTO language. If you need again to write some data, import some data, or export some data to the Azure Log Analytics workspace, to the Log Analytics tables, you need to use the API and send this data. So you can set the query language with the statement like a tabular expression. You can see this tabular expression here on this example, where you can see inside like a name of the table. Why I need this table? It's exactly the question, like, yes, you need to know where the data will be stored by each solution, or directly by monitor, Azure Monitor, right? After that, we have the statement on this, like you see after the pipe, where the time generated. Why I know this time generated? Because it's typical, again, so like it's a typical standard. It's when you are working with Azure Log Analytics queries, etc. It's more to know the table structure. That's all tables name it, for example, how it's named, which table you need, which data could be stored there. After that, you see like a time generated table and commands like a go 10 days, right? And we do the summarize like a max with the time generated. So we summarize this by the time generated and have the last date. And if you see, there is a let command that's let system this variable. We have variable 1, variable 2. There is no set statement, but anyway, we will look on after. And after that, we have the semicolon. That's like split different statements. Next statement here, you can see it's one statement. Tabular expression to take the data from the inside matrix, where we have these dates, where we have this namespace like logical disk, and where we have this name like this one. And after that, you see we are doing the extend this query with the variable d, but we are using the text. To understand how it works and how it looks like, we can go back. Let's do like this. We can go back to the log analytics, go to the logs, and go back to the insights and run it, and you see, so like when it puts some data, origin from where it's come from, the maps, from these options, what we are looking the computer namespace of work, etc., etc. And here we are looking for logical disks. Here is, we are looking for free space percentage, logical disk, free space megabytes, but we need free space percentage, you see. And after that we have the text, but this text, it's exactly information that we need. Is it disk D, C, or some mounts inside the mount points inside the Linux? But anyway, you see it's like a drive D, disk D. And we can see here But to read this like a disk, we need to do some parse, we need to do some extension, etc., etc. This is our tabular information, and we are going after that with forecasting, expanding, etc., etc. And came with the join. The join itself give us information about additional disks that we are looking for free space and percentage. After that we are looking the free space of the logical disk, and after that we need to look to the what we'll need to the look join, and join after that with the logical disk and provide the what we are providing, the mount ID. It's also disk, the computer name, drive D. Okay, so we are trying to have the free percentage with free disk size, etc., to work on it, right? And after that, like operations with project which data and order which data we are looking for. So it will be the order by the with projected like a prediction time, computer, drive name, predicted size, full size, taken by one it takes the size, second one free space. So like it's why we have one it's free space, second one is a size in megabytes, and another one takes exactly the size of the disk itself. We can take it also from the tag. Free space, yeah, when we take the logical disk, we can take it from the tag, like a drive 3, to have it. This is how it works, because every time you see, so like we have free space, full size like a disk megabytes here, and we take this disk megabytes from here. And yeah, so like this is the query. And yeah, just a second, I will answer. It's exactly the answer on your question. It's like do you need like, or how long you need to learn the KUSTO before start to work? You don't need to learn the KUSTO language. So you need to understand any query language, and you can just like remap your knowledge from the standard query language like a SQL to the KUSTO. It's okay if you understand. So like most important again, so as I mentioned before, to understand how the data stored, why is data stored like this, and where you can find exactly the required data. You see my point, right? So like what we are trying to get here, we are trying to get here the different values. Like from here we are taking, when we say that free space, we take the value of the free space, where there we were taking the not like you see the just mount ID, but we are taking the disk size in megabytes, and we have this information. For here we are taking just information from the disk to get the free space, etc. So a lot of scenarios that you need to know, where it's stored, how it's stored, why it's stored like this. It's more important. Okay, so like and the same, for example, SQL, right? Like you know SQL, and you want to understand what is different. And here all examples that you can use by this one. Select name, count, distinct time, type from dependency. Dependencies summarized by name, type, summarized by count, the result, right? And by name, right? So this is, or dependency summarize the count, type by name. A lot of scenarios are reviewed here with the joins, left join, out joins, etc. Nested queries that you see, so like to have the result. All of these scenarios, if you know SQL Server, will be helpful for you. For features, right? So like a parser. There's a lot of options about the parsing the data. Why? Because a lot of data inside the Azure Log Analytics is stored like I provided on this request. I mean, we have the tags. Look, where is it? Where is my, I see. We have the tags, and inside these tags we have some stored data. For example, when we are talking about the logical disk and 3 megabyte space, and this is a 3 megabyte space in value, but the real size of the disk is stored here. You see, disk size MB, so free space this one, real size this one, free space this one, real size this one. So like this is the way how system stores the data and how it works. And again, parser for the JSON, etc. And how you can operate with this, because for example, when you parse the one JSON and inside another JSON, you can convert it, you need to convert it and send it again and again and again. So like, a lot of options like forecasting trends, abnormal predictions. You can see here again in my example exactly the prediction. This part, and we will talk about this later, it's a part of the prediction here. We create the series, we extend this series, we trying to understand what we have, and after that working with additional data. So this is exactly the prediction, and how it works we will look on the next session, because it's important part of the log analytics or trends, how to take the trends. Table join, right? So yeah, we need a lot of table joins, because again, if data stored like I provided by the category, and after that the data, and the free space in another part request, or real size in another part of the request, all of this should be joined to provide like this is a machine, disk, full size, free percentage. It's all required for the different joins. And rendering, again we will look after, but rendering, it's a part when you can do the diagrams exactly inside the request and provide these queries to work with the really useful information. And where is it? Right, VM Insight, right? As I mentioned before, VM Insight itself, it's not one data. VM Insight, it's, you see, VM process, VM connect, VM computer, VM bound ports, Insight metrics. All of this, it's a different tables, that provide us different information about the solution. let's check why we have, for example, right now I am trying to do the computer. How many? Just only one computer sends the data. We need to check it, what's going on. But anyway, so like this is inside matrix, and it's not inside matrix only, but also a lot of different like VM processes, what's going on inside the VM, etc., etc. All of this stuff, it's a part of the automation. And there is a list that you can see, for example, inside matrix, right? For inside matrix, who sends which solution, right? Infrastructure inside, resource, etc. For the categories for VM machines, container, and Azure resources, all resource types, what columns we have, and again you see the value and tags. That's all. That's how it works. So it's not like we need to see the name, namespace, origin, and after that value and tag. Tag will give us understanding if it's inside machine different disk, for example, and value the value of the parameter name and namespace for this computer. It's how it's built, and you need to understand the full list. You will find here, you see a lot of tables. If we look by resource types and want to understand, for example, virtual machine, virtual machine. So this is all tables that system stores the data, like Azure metrics, like Azure activities, events, heartbeats, etc. You see this scenario here. And the tools, I would recommend to start with Azure Monitor Log Analytics tool. You see it here. Also, when you're working with the Azure Data Explorer cluster, you can use the KUSTO, but we are not talking about log analytics again. KUSTO Explorer, it's a desktop application. It works for with KUSTO for the different cluster, etc., where it's the huge data stored, not only the log analytics. Visual Studio Code has the KUSTO extension, and personally I am actively using, for example, this one. You see these options and how it works. And API PowerShell commands in light code on the Python, etc. You can also use to work with KUSTO. And about the PowerShell commands, how to execute, etc. and API, we will talk on the next sessions. And because we are run out of time, I will answer on the questions offline. You always can ping me. I have another meeting. Sorry, I have to jump to another meeting. You always can ping me to the igorsh@outlook.com, or you can find me on the LinkedIn. So you're welcome. See you later. And see you on the next session. Bye. Thank you. Bye bye.